everybody. Welcome back to Arching Oak Studio. I'm back in my scrap journal today. If you're enjoying watching me work in these journals, or you'd like to be notified when I put out a new video, please click on the subscribe button and then you'll know as soon as I post. I'm trying to post something new every week. So we're working back on this page. If you watched my previous videos, this page spread is dedicated to the two brothers you see pictured here on the left and right hand sides of the spread. I've named them William and Jonathan Burr, the Burr brothers, and I've created kind of an entire story, mostly in my head, about these two brothers. And I'm trying to create some visual narrations to kind of go with the story in my head. So all I've done right now is use some gesso to kind of mask some of the text a little bit more on the page and to give me more of a neutral background. And these are transparencies. So I decided that one of the cool things about working in journals is that you get to use different kinds of materials and you create different textures on the pages. So this old transparency or overhead projector film, that's what we used to call it back in school. I think I'm probably dating myself by saying that, but my teachers use the overhead projector all the time. So I've decided to use a piece of this. So I'm just going to measure and I'm going to cut a piece that's going to go just over the right side of the spread. And what's really cool about this is obviously it's clear, it's transparent. So whatever we put onto it, you're still going to be able to see the page underneath. So it's just kind of an added texture. The shininess, the slickness of the paper is a nice textural element that we're adding. So I'm just trimming it down to fit on half of the journal. And sorry about the reflective lights from overhead. So I think I'm going to do some stamping. I'm going to just find something to stamp on top of. And the great thing about StazOn, remember I talked about this in one of my other videos, you can use StazOn on a whole bunch of different kinds of surfaces. So glass, paper, obviously, but also plastic. So this kind of ink is going to work really well on the transparency paper. And somebody once told me, when you're doing stamping, take the stamp pad to the stamp and not the other way around. So instead of pushing your stamper down or your stamp into the ink pad, take the ink pad to the stamper. I feel like you can control where the ink goes a little bit better. So I'm using this rubber stamp that looks like kind of a spiral. Looks almost like the spiral bound notebooks. And you can see the StazOn goes right onto it and it's going to be permanent. The only thing that will take that off really is alcohol or an alcohol wipe. And then I'm just going to use this other stamp to kind of add a little bit more pattern onto the transparency paper, but I think I only want it to go on the white part of the page. So it's not going to go over top of the boys' pictures. And so I'm just going to use the ink pad to ink up half of the stamp. And these are just some little lines, a pattern of lines. I like to use this if I'm creating an area to journal on. It gives me a nice lines to write on. So I'm just going to stamp this across half of the transparency page. And I'm going to repeat that a few times. Speed it up so you don't have to get impatient. So it literally says on the StazOn for every surface, and they mean it. All right, so I'm going to attach this, and I could tape it, but I think I'm going to go kind of old school and add a little bit of hardware onto there. So I'm just going to staple. I'm just going to staple it across the top. Staples again add another textural element to your page. All right, so I'm kind of liking this. So when I lift it up, obviously, we'll be able to see what's underneath. And always thinking, what's next? Let me see. I think I'm going to continue that spiral stamp across to the other page. And I've talked about that before in my other videos. It's kind of important when you're journaling, at least I think it is, um, to make your left and right pages kind of jive. They need to go together somehow. So it's really good to carry elements from one side across to the other side of the spread. So I've done that at the bottom of the page with the round black stamps that we used. I did it with the washi tape, the green washi tape. And now I'm doing it with the spiral stamp. And you saw me use a piece of paper just to cover over the photograph so that the spiral stamp only went where I wanted it to go. I think I'll add some washi tape. Now, washi tape, I have mentioned, I love washi tape and I hate washi tape for the same reason. It tears easily and it tears easily. So you get a lot of little bits coming off from time to time. I don't always mind it. I use those little bits. I'll just stick it down here. But you just have to pull it off the roll very slowly. Just be patient. And I'm just going to add a little bit on the edge over here, kind of wrap it around to the back side of the next page. I love using black as my main accent color. My normal color palette when I'm working in a journal is usually like the colors of a vintage photo. So I like to use a lot of tan and brown and sepia tones, cream color, tea dyes. And so here, if you've been watching my videos, I call these pages my nostalgic narrations. So it's when I take an old vintage photograph or photographs and I kind of create a narrative about the people within them. And so the Burr brothers, William and Jonathan, are really quite mischievous as children. And so this story tells a little bit about how they have been known to play pranks on their mother. And so that's what I wrote on the left-hand side. And I think I'm going to continue it onto the other side too. But first, a little more tape at the top. And I'm just covering over one of the staples, kind of pushing it around there. Just rub it down. I didn't use my little handy dandy scrapey tool, but you can see it. I've got it under the book on my table, but fingernails work really well too. So I'm liking how this looks so far. Need to think what to do on the right-hand side under the transparency. And I think I'm going to do a little bit more writing. And this time I think I'll give this page a title, since it's about the two boys being very mischievous and being pranksters. The two tricksters seems to be pretty fitting. I'm not really sold on this font that I just created. Kind of doesn't really go with the feel of the page. I may end up changing that. But I'm going to continue their story here under the transparency. And so this side is just telling the story of a time when they were on vacation at their summer home at the Cape. And they decided to play a prank on their mom by putting some live fish into her wash basin. And then it says that they got in big trouble and had to spend the rest of their vacation in their rooms. The last line says, "No beach, no fishing, no fun." Poor Burr brothers. So I'm writing with a Sharpie, just a fine point Sharpie pen. Actually, I think it's an extra fine point. Works really well, especially on top of gesso, because those are the areas that I just gessoed. And so, like I said, I wasn't really sold on this font, so I think I'm just going to cover over it for now with some of this parcel tape, and I'll come back to it later. I'll think of a good title, if it even needs a title. Maybe it doesn't. I'm just going to cut this in half. It's a little bit wider than what I need. Packing tape is definitely one of my favorite supplies. Fits right into my vintage color palette. Just stick this extra piece over here on another page for another time. And I'm just going to cover up that title for now. Just rub it on really good. It's very adhesive, which is nice. So that piece of tape is not going anywhere. And that's it. I'm going to I'm going to stop there and I will be back. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you like what you see here. And I'll see you next time around in my next video.